When it was clear that I needed to enroll and study theology, and I was choosing to study at Serie University, we lived in Southern California. The week or two before classes began, I flew home. I felt there needed to be a conversation with my family. My father was the last person that I talked to about this decision, intentionally, because I grew up in a home where my father quoted the Apostle Paul. In particular, an elder should be the husband of one wife. An elder should be the husband of one wife. An elder should be the husband of one wife. And we had a female elder in church when I was growing up, the day she was ordained to be an elder in our congregation. It was so troubling for my father. And so I grew up with those narratives. Every time that woman was on the platform, my father couldn't even use her name. He just called her that woman. Every time that woman was on the platform, it was so aggravating to my dad. So years later, when I decided I'm studying theology, I think I'm going to become that woman. I flew home to talk to my dad, and in the driveway outside of the house, I said to him, in a couple of weeks, I'm going back to school, and I'm going to study theology, and I think I'll be a pastor. And is that going to be okay with you? I actually said the sentence, am I going to be welcome in your home, Dad? And that day in the driveway, my father was not able to answer me. And he shrugged his shoulders, and he turned around, and he just walked into the house. And we didn't solve it that weekend. We didn't solve it for a while until I started serving in different places. And my father heard I was going to be doing something, speaking at a retreat or showing up somewhere to participate. And he would call and say, we're going to come and listen. And so he just began to tag along and watch. One day, in a larger venue in Oregon, Central Oregon, my father said, we're coming. We know you're speaking for the weekend. And I said, Dad, this is going to be a big room full of women. It's going to be hundreds of women. You really shouldn't come. It's sort of for women only. And he said, oh, no, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. I'll sit in the back row. I said, but you can't bring your camcorder and all that stuff this time. No, it won't be a problem. It'll be just fine. And I walked into this gymnasium on Sabbath morning, and my father's sitting in the front row with all these cables taped down across the front of the gymnasium, the front row, and he's all the way over on one side waving at me, oh, it'll be fine, it'll be fine. If you ask my dad what changed, he would tell you today what I'm going to say. He would say, I cannot explain what I'm seeing. I just know that God is doing something. How can I stand in the way of something God is doing? A question I answer a lot where I minister on a university campus has to do with a young woman who's wondering about her future in the church and a sense that this is what God wants her to do, and she can't escape that calling in her life, but also a real awareness that perhaps the church is even now not ready to welcome her. The answer to that question looks pretty similar for me every time it's asked. If God is asking someone to do this, God is asking someone to do this. And it will come out of your life one way or the other, whether your current context, church community, circle, whether they're ready for it or not. These young candidates will just find other ways to express God's calling in their life. So if God is calling you, God is calling you, and hang on for the ride. I don't know when or where or how God is going to use you, but God's going to use you. We hope it's with the church.